Classic Restos is proudly brought to you by Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts, Hare and Forbes Machinery House, and Pace Farm.
Like to see an event that plays host to machinery, classic vehicles and everything in between? Of course you would. Well, stick around for the Wine Country, Swap Meet, Motor Show and Antique Machinery Display. Please continue on next page, Maitland. Whew, sounds like a heck of an event on this week's episode of Classic Restos. It's not every day that you find such a splendid mix of machinery, and travelling to an equally descriptive part of regional New South Wales here in Maitland caps things off just nicely.
Now, this event is hosted by the 48 to 78 Holden Car Club, Hunter Valley Incorporated. The club started back in 1972, which is safe to say it's one of the oldest Holden car clubs in Australia, with the objective to promote the enjoyment of Holden cars via the passion of the enthusiasts. Today we can expect to see a swap meet. There's market stalls and classic vintage and modern vehicles, enhanced by a steam and machinery display from yesteryear. All of this nice stuff aside, the whole event is to raise funds for the first charity Hunter Valley All Holden Day in 2020.
Yeah, we're just holding a small car show here today at the Steamfest Rally Grounds in Maitland. We're calling it the Wine Country Swap Meet and Motor Show, and it's just an event we put together to help us set up for 2020, where we're going to have, all going well, a major event which will be Hunter Valley All Holden Day. So, and depending on the success of today, of course, we might hold the same thing again next year and hope that it just grows from strength to strength. We're certainly very happy with the day we've had so far. The turnout's been great. We've got the swap meet happening over the other side, and the antique steam and machinery guys have been fantastic. They've got some machinery on display up there with a steam engine going and trying to make it a great family day for everybody. We are the 48 to 78 Holden Car Club. We are, I believe, the oldest Holden car club in Australia. We were established in 1972. We have well over 100 members in the club, and yeah, we're very active in the community, getting our classic vehicles out, and we're also encouraged the more modern cars as well. About our swap meet this year, we've got all sorts of gear over there on offer. We've had a fantastic turnout. We're really pleased with the response this year, and being our first year especially. But there's all sorts of bits and pieces over there. We've had people turn up with utes and trucks and trailers. They've got bits and pieces on the ground scattered around, and it's created a lot of interest, and a lot of people come in just to go to the swap meet side of things, but also they get to enjoy the classic cars on display. So very happy. So next year our plan is to hold a major event in the Hunter Valley, which will be Hunter Valley All Holden Day. So I would just encourage everybody, please keep an eye out on social media. We've got a Facebook page which is Holden Talk. We'll also share it out there on the other Facebook pages and all the social media we can. And hopefully Fletch will help us out and help us promote next year's show as well. He's doing a great job. And yeah, so just keep your eye out, and it will be huge.
Time for Allan on today's show. How are you, mate?
Very good, thanks, Fletch.
Allan, you've got this stunning 1949 Hudson here. 1949, wow, what an era. Back in the days of the Ford, the single spinner. What a time.
Yep, great time. And Hudson, of course, was a middle price car between the big boys, and it was a pretty good sell-off considering the price range, and a little bit more expensive than your Ford and your Chevy, but was a very popular car in the day.
You can see that. It's up there. It's on the lines of Packard.
Yeah.
They're just so big in every way. A sled in design. They've got their own opulence, though. What you've done here, though, with your restoration, how was it when you got it?
Very sad. Yeah, a bucket of rust actually. It had been laying in an old bloke's yard back in Liverpool for about 25 years, all pulled apart under a lean-to years ago, but there was no sign of the lean-to. It all fallen in on it. So
you can see where the sayings come from with Shannons sharing the passion. Now, you have to have this. It's almost in the DNA to want to go ahead with such a project. With all due respect, all restorations can be difficult, but this one here has to be harder. It has to be harder than your standard run-of-the-mill cars because, well, how do you go with parts for a start for this 49? How did you go in that way?
Parts are hard. I actually shopped around and found I had another car that I was going to restore, 49, and I was looking for a parts car, and actually we ended up restoring this one rather than the parts car. But the other one came in handy. The other one came in handy anyway, so we picked a lot of parts off that, and we were fortunate enough. I'm a member of the Hudson Club in America, and we were fortunate enough to go there in 2009 for 100 years of Hudson and 50 years of the Hudson Club. So, and they always have a big swap meet, and it was actually in Detroit. So, henceforth, a couple of suitcases full of spare parts and a few boxes sent back home, and got a lot of new old stock, the smaller bits and pieces that were very hard to find in Australia. And the doors are all pretty sad on it, and the bonnet and the boot lid. So I got into a really good guy over there. He restores Hudsons for a living, and he sent 4 doors, a boot lid, and a bonnet over in a container. And so.
Well, what a contact to have, Allan. When we look at a car like this Hudson, how many in Australia? Like in your opinion, how many do we have here?
Probably around 10 on the road, and probably a few more laying around in sheds still. But
mentioning too earlier, alluding to Packard, these were huge manufacturing car companies. They didn't go broke or out of business because they built a bad car. No. These were fantastic machines. They really were. These NASCARing these. Yeah. They were the fastest car in the early 50s. At Nascar, we're talking a 6-cylinder engine. They may have run. Did they run two carbies on those?
308s. This is the 262, and the race car was more the 308 with the twin H power, twin H.
That's 308 cubic inches, if you're wondering, as a 6-cylinder. It's not the 308 like what we had here, the Australian Holden, of course. Now, we look at some of the features on this car. I can't help but notice with the bonnet up, we've got the hinges moved forward, two big brackets there to keep the hood up. But when you look across the top of the firewall, just in front of the plenum chamber, cables there operating the wipers.
Yep, that's right. Yep. A bit of fun trying to fit them back up too.
How cool's that? You got this little arm going backwards and forwards, just pulling the cables either way and moving the wipers. Wow, what technology!
Yeah. And they work well. Vacuum, they still work well. Yeah.
Vacuum?
Yep.
So at the traffic lights not moving, they're 100 miles an hour. Then when you take off, they slow down.
Yeah. Not too bad. I've had the motor rebuilt, so it works pretty well.
Okay, now on that subject, Al, run us through what you've done with the engine.
Engine stock standard. Not stock. It's been bored about 30 thou over, and all fully balanced and all new components. The only original part on it's really the block.
Now we move on to the interior.
Yep.
The Art Deco dash. How opulent is that? It is just absolutely beautiful. Even the centre of the steering wheel with where the horn's located there, it's art. It really is art, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the 49s are the prettiest dash. They changed them a fair bit over the models, but I still think the 49 is a prettier car with the grille and the dash. And I did change the dash a little bit. They were originally wood grain and brown, but to suit the theme of the car, that's why I did the grey and the blue.
You know, you look at the interior, it's not too far removed from a Tucker.
No, it's not actually. They're a fairly similar sort of car, independent motor vehicle.
There's another story I could bang on about the history of Preston Tucker. Another story. These are the stories you can sit around and just talk about for ages.
Yeah. No, I've seen a lot of those on YouTube, and I like following those sort of things. So.
Well, it's an absolute credit to you, Allan. The interior, the way you've reupholstered the car, looks fantastic. I love the little the little visors over the side glass on the doors. You've just gone everywhere the right way. The backing plates behind the door handles. It's just beautiful, mate.
I just wanted to do a subtle resto-mod, just very mild, so you can still looks like a Hudson, and just got the modern features and modern lines. And just fortunate enough to get a lot of new old stock stuff and put it on, and it all fitted up pretty nicely. So And yeah, I had a really good man. I had up in Taree for about 4 years doing the panel work, and labour of love between the two of us actually.
I can appreciate that, mate. Thanks for supporting this day here for the first time for the 4878 Holden Club. And I'm the lucky one here today, getting the opportunity to meet you with this car, Allan. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Fletch. Pleasure. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Mate.
We've always had a few cars. They're all special. The T-Bird.
Oh, that's mine.
The Combi for when we want to get away. The XR8.
It's going to be a classic.
They're all insured with Shannons,
We've also got Shannon's home and contents cover.
which helps protect our automotive collectibles, tools and memorabilia in the home and garage. If you're motoring enthusiasts like us, it's got to be.
Shannon's.
Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts. Call 13 46 46 for a quote.
If you have a restoration project, Hare and Forbes has the tools that you need. Shrinker stretchers, dollies, mallets, bead rollers, profile gauges, professional panel restoration kits, and so much more. Now I warn you, enter at your own risk because you will end up buying something. So come along to your Cap City store or browse and buy online at machineryhouse.com.au because Hare and Forbes has the range.
Making our way through this tremendous Maitland show. How you doing, Peter?
I'm well, Fletch. Yourself?
Good, thank you. You enjoying yourself here today?
Yeah, absolutely great day.
It's a great day, and it's a good day for these people as well, because it's all in springboard to 2020 for the All Holden Day. So pending on how well we go here today, well, that'll hopefully set the scene next year for them.
Well, I think so. I think there's a lot of people getting into vintage cars these days, and you meet a lot of great people, and it's just a fun day with good people, and the crowd's been exceptional as well.
Absolutely. Now, the car before us, well, we've gone from an early 50s American Hudson over now to a British car. We've got a 1957 Jaguar XK150, beautiful example. What's the story, Peter?
I purchased the car approximately 4 years ago from a gentleman from Western Australia who in actual fact imported the car. Part of the body come from America, but the balance from England. And it was all dropped off by an aeroplane in Western Australia, where the car was completely rebuilt, body-wise. That particular gentleman arranged to have all the body painted, reupholstered. Since I've purchased it, I've upgraded a lot of the body work, nuts and bolts, shock absorbers, new fuel tanks. I'm not going to say to period correct, but more ultra-modern, easy driving.
Peter, 1957, we're talking an interesting era. We're kind of in the, well, almost in the middle of the, I guess, the sports car era, and up there with the Morgans and these two-door cars. The Europeans had the twisty roads and narrow streets, and hence these cars. But they did them very well, what they were designed to do. Here we've got obviously a higher mark car being the Jag, and I think they lend themselves to their nice interiors. There's something about red with these cars, with the white on the outside straight away. It's like a magnet, it draws people towards it.
Yes, it is, or the car is red with a light tan upholstery, which is the same thing. But as you're saying, probably in the 50s, like I think the British really led the way with sports cars. You had like the MGAs were on the circuit, the Austin Healeys were on the circuit, and then of course the XK models went 120, 140, and of course in 57 the XK150 was produced, and then early 60s, of course, the E Type Jag, which was another era.
The Japanese were doing some interesting things in the early 60s as well with the release of their Datsun Fairladies.
Yes, and there's a number of other Japanese cars these days with the Honda. Like I think they made a sports car 2000 now that are very, very expensive if one can find.
It's interesting to look back at the manufacturers of the same era and have a look at what they all did. And it's also interesting too when you look at the shapes of the cars and you can see from mark to mark where they've all done a pretty good job of copying each other in different ways. When we talk of a car like this, we've come, say 60 odd years.
62.
Now in 1957, if we had done that same exercise then, we would have been looking at a car at 1900. So how massive have the cars changed from 1900 to 57, and then 57 to now? So there's a lot said.
Yeah, like everything's just, like every 20 years, everything's just recreated. But this car, when it came out in 57, it had four-wheel disc brakes and it could do 120 mile an hour.
So Peter, from the heart, where do classic cars go back with you? What's the first car that you can remember that sparked your interest into the hobby?
Well, my dad bought me a little Mini when I first got my licence, which I paid for at the end. But I was just scouring through the for sale section of the newspaper one day, and in 1977 it was, I saw this MGA for sale for $700, and it was for sale out in the back roads of Mulberry, in the edge of Newcastle West. So it was one Friday night. I grabbed a mate and we drove out and had a look at it, and turned up the next day for $700 and bought it.
There you go.
So I did that long ago.
Good on you, Pete. Great catching up with you. Love hearing those stories, mate. Well done here on the Jaguar. It's the only one here today on the paddock, and yeah, it's a credit to you, mate. Well done.
No, thanks, Fletch. Appreciate the support.
If you enjoy watching classic restos, well, you'll love the Shannons Club. There are over 300 episodes there awaiting you, plus a whole heap of other cool stuff there as well. For more information on the Shannons Club, visit shannons.com.au.
I spend a lot of time out here. The RT Charger's the real deal. An E49. Remember A-Charger? I've always got projects on the go, so Shannon's laid-up cover helps protect my restorations. I'm Mopar through and through. It's a passion Shannon's understands. I wouldn't insure my cars and bikes with anyone else.
Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts. Call 13 46 46 for a quote.
Hare and Forbes Machinery House has been family owned and operated for over 85 years, and it's easy to see why. Planning on welding? Look at these welding tables and clamps, air compressors and different air tools, sandblasting cabinets, through to spray guns. Everyone is welcome at Machinery House. There are competitive freight rates around Australia, and you can buy online at machineryhouse.com.au. So remember, Hare and Forbes has the range.
Time for Australia's own car now. How are you, Ray?
Good. Good, thanks, Fletch.
That's good. You enjoying yourself?
Beautiful. Good day.
Absolutely. You'd have to be having fun being part of a show like this, bringing your Holden out, a 1950 48215. What an example.
Very good. Nice looking car. I like it.
Looking around the car, the genuine Holden radio underneath the dash.
Yeah, that's original.
That looks like a pop rivet job back home in the shed. Ray, did you do that one?
No. No, that's the way they come out.
That's the first time I've seen that type of radio with Holden on it. Seen quite a few up in the dash, but underneath like that, that's, first time.
Yeah, that's because it's an early one, 1950 model, so, yeah.
And talking of other things that I haven't seen before, underneath the carby, you put a key in there. It's called the Joker, obviously an accessory back in the day. to cut the fuel, right? You put the key in, turn it, stops your fuel going into the engine cuts out. Anti-theft.
Anti-theft, that's right, yeah. Puts a butterfly across and so the car doesn't suck air.
That's high tech, isn't it?
Back in them days, I suppose so.
Yeah. That's amazing. Okay, now seeing we're on the subject of features of the car, the optional shelf underneath the dashboard as well.
Yes. I've got 29 Nascar accessories on it.
And the grab rail for the people in the back to hang on to.
Yeah, I used to do weddings and people were pulling the seat and I thought, well, they're going to rip the seat one day, so I put the taxi bar in there.
Isn't it interesting the amount of accessories that were available back in 1950? When you stop and look at safety items such as mirrors, we went right through to 1979, 1980 on our cars, where passenger side, often on the passenger side, there's no mirror. Yeah. That was an option, so safety was an option back then.
It was, yeah. Yep. So yeah, I've got a mirror on this side, so yeah.
And what's the piece of red perspex there on the quarter window, Ray?
They're called a venti. When you open your quarter vent, and you know how when you're driving the wind blows on your face, well, it pushes it down on your legs. Right. Keeps you cool, yeah. They were very hard to find.
So, Ray, how long ago did you do the build?
Probably 27 years ago.
Isn't it nice to be able to restore a car 27 years ago and it still looked this good today? This is the beauty of this, because we can park them up. We don't have to drive them every day. They're in garages, they're out of the weather. And when these things were new, most times it was totally the opposite. They were out in all conditions, weren't they?
Yeah, they were, yeah.
Ray, thank you so much for hanging around here this afternoon and being an integral part of today's episode here at Maitland for Classic Restos. And it's always good to catch up with someone with one of these 48 215s. They always intrigue me because, well, the first shape Holden, they've got their own stories, and it typified the Australian lifestyle just so much from a time back then. So good on you, Ray. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Fletch, for interviewing me in the car.
Hi, I'm Natalie. This is my 1954 FJ Holden, which is actually my dad's, but since the age I could speak, I have always claimed it as mine. It means so much to be able to drive it these days because I finally have learnt to drive it. I can still remember when I was younger, Dad would sit me on his lap and I would get to drive it into the shed, and you would feel like the biggest girl being able to do that. And now he lets me take it to car shows, and we won some trophies with it recently when I took it to a show. And it just feels good to show all the males out there that a female can drive such an old car. My friends and my work colleagues don't always understand that I am more of a tomboy in a way. I have driven old Holdens my whole life when I started driving. I've cleaned the underneath. Some people look at me and say she's too pretty to get under a car, yet I'm the one who gets under and comes out covered in dust from cleaning the underneath. When I drive the Holden, especially the FJ behind me, it feels like it belongs because it's been in our family for so long, and it's always been a constant between Dad and I, a battle between is his car better or is my ute better. And when I get to drive it, I feel like I finally show him mine is better. From having a new car and being able to drive the old cars, you realise how simple they were when they built them. You can see the engine, you can work on it, you can get underneath it, you can change things so much easier. And when you drive them, you end up following the person in front. If they swerve on the road, you follow them. And the next thing you know, they say, "Did you miss a turtle?" "I didn't see the turtle, I followed you." They just drive so simple. You put them in top gear and off you go for 12 hours if you want. My favourite Holden from growing up is definitely the FJ, just because I've claimed it as mine so many times. It is my favourite. For me, I know I will always treasure my dad's Holden when I eventually get it passed down to me, and I will always treat it and take it to shows the way he has, because it means so much in my heart to be able to drive his beloved car.
Well, how good was that? Just some of the 2019 Wine Country Swap Meet Motor Show and Antique Machinery Display, Maitland, here in New South Wales. And how cool was the last interview with Natalie? It's just so nice in this day and age to meet somebody that still understands what no synchro means on first gear. Well, I hope you really enjoyed today's show. Now, until next week, no matter where you're watching Classic Restos from, please ride and drive safe. I'm Fletch, and I thank you very much for watching.
You can like and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/ClassicRestosTV and watch catch-up episodes at shannons.com.au. Classic Restos is proudly brought to you by Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts, Hare and Forbes Machinery House, and Pace Farm.